Again, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to NAUI Talk International Series. And today's discussion, we're going to be looking at the insurance side of things. So when you're looking at the insurance business, what does that mean and how can that affect you? So we're going to look at that. When we're dealing with the question of insurance, we're going to look at it today with various thoughts and ideas and look at it and kind of break it into segments to say, hey, how can it work for you, the individual? You really can't get too far into the insurance conversation without having a discussion on licensed agents. I am a scuba instructor. I'm the marketing director. I am not an insurance agent. I'm not in the insurance world. I cannot give you insurance advice. People may say, well, how come you didn't bring somebody in to discuss it? Which country? Because where I am, Divers Alert Network doesn't offer professional insurance, but it does offer travel insurance and individual insurance for divers. Okay, I have Dive One in my country. Other countries may have Dive Assure. Some countries that can get everything from the Divers Alert Network. So there's and that's just mentioning different companies. And throughout the world, we have a lot of different offerings and a lot of different possibilities. So it's impossible to hit all of them. So instead of dealing with particular companies or particular licensed agents that give you their direct advice, we're hoping to give you the questions so you know when you're dealing with a person in your area that you're getting the right one. So remember, talk to the person in your region that's licensed by your governing body, your government, to give that advice and that product and service to you. So let's look at this from a business perspective. As a business person, how can I accomplish this task of learning what I need to make my business successful with regards to insurance? We're going to break it down into a few areas. Okay, first of all, areas of insurance, topics like categories of insurance. We're going to look at that. Ways it can benefit your business as well as others. And then we'll look at certain considerations that you should take with regards to the business component. And of course, we got questions and answers. We'll address them as we get going as best as I can, and I definitely will address them all at the end. So let's get going and have a look at these. First of all, let's look at areas of insurance. Sometimes we think insurance is a singular topic, and it really isn't. There's insurance for professionals. I'm a dive instructor. I need to be insured to teach diving. Okay, what does that include? How can I protect myself in my particular region? Now, in my case, I live in Canada. I live in Ontario, in Canada in particular. So that province of Ontario has very particular requirements that other places may not. Everywhere's a little different. So I look at what can I do with professional liability insurance. Okay, and that may include that I can teach scuba. They can use the gear and the air fills and the tanks and all that while I'm teaching. That's kind of how it works here, okay? But you need to be able to ask those questions. If I'm just getting instructor insurance, is that going to cover everything I do? Because for instance, as a facilities sell gear, service gear, provide air fills and rental gear for non-students. So there's a big difference whether I'm teaching somebody or whether they're an existing customer or a new customer that comes to my area to rent some gear. So a good area to look at would be with your licensed professional, what am I doing exactly? And be honest with your agents, what you're trying to accomplish throughout your business plan, and get the insurance that's going to match that. For instance, you may be in an area like me, where we have very extreme differences in temperature, summer to winter. In the winter, we use pools. In the summer, we use the lake to teach. You can teach a full course in the lake. You can teach part of the course in the lake and part of it in the pool. Of course, the last parts of the open water dives, obviously in the lake or in the ocean, depending where you live. Where I live, it'd be lake. So we look at the facilities that you're dealing with and what the requirements they may have. To rent the local pools for me, for instance, I need to have $2 million liability insurance and list them on my policy. That's just my area. That may not be your area. So talk to your agent, discuss with them, but also with your service providers who you're renting the pools from, or if you're using the lakefront property, say it's a city or municipal park of some kind, a county park of some kind, and they're right on the water, they may have very particular needs that they have and expectations they have for you for insurance, or they may provide the insurance. It depends on the country you're in, right? Not to be confused with personal property versus public property. If you're looking at personal property, for instance, I live right on a big lake called Lake Simcoe, which is right here in Barrie, Ontario. And to dive at my place, that's personal property, not public property. If we were to dive at my place, I would want to make sure that my address is listed as one of our insured facilities or providers, or whatever your area calls it, a named insurance person. In my particular area, you get a certificate per each of those locations, and you provide that to them, okay? So looking at private property versus public property, there may be two different sets of rules, and it's very important to look at that and to determine and understand the needs that you may have in that particular area. Boats is a favorite one of mine. Again, as divers, we do shore diving, but we also do boat diving. Quite often we call them charter boats. The reason it's a charter boat is you're chartering the boat, it's for hire. If that boat is your dive center's asset and you're doing dive center activities on it, you want to have the proper insurance. The terminology will change depending on where you are. Where I live, it would be considered a commercial vessel, and I have to have it registered as a commercial vessel with the government and have commercial insurance. If you're taking a couple of buddies out and rolling off the side and doing a dive, that'd be a different story, but I'm talking dive business here. You're running a business, be honest with your people, especially with your insurance agent, to make sure you have the adequate coverage. If you're charging money to go on the boat, that is a commercial activity. How does that affect you in your particular area? Can't give you advice on that. I don't know where you're living. We have people that tune into this from all over the world. So it's very important to make sure what's going to happen. There's actually parts of the world where it's impossible to get insurance. And I've seen that in many different areas. There's a couple of places I know that some of our good friends in Puerto Rico have some definite issues trying to get insurance, as well as some of the people that are looking at in Yemen or other countries in the world where there's no insurers that are working. These are hopefully going to change. So when we're looking at these type of insurance, we have to look at whether this is a professional liability insurance or a personal insurance for me. And we're going to get into more of that a little bit later on. Right now, I'm just looking at different areas that we may want to look at. When it comes to transportation, do I need insurance for transportation? If I have people coming in my car or truck or van and I'm transporting back and forth to a dive, then what you're looking at is a situation of, if I'm charging them to be in my car, is that a commercial activity and do I have commercial insurance? If it's a couple of buddies jumping in a car, maybe Madison and I just jump in the car, we go together and go for a dive, that'd be a different thing. But I'm talking about in a business, we're doing an excursion, how does that affect me and my business with regards to insurance? So these are good areas to sort of stop and look at. When I look at the word travel, you see that coming up next. Travel may be on a boat, it may be in the car on the way to a dive site, but it could also be internationally. I know with COVID, a lot of us aren't traveling. I know I can right now. But when you do travel, and we will travel again, we're going to different countries and different jurisdictions. So will my insurance cover me when I go to another area? What is the difference between running a dive through my facility insurance or my professional liability insurance, or me as an individual diver? We could look at all those. And these are very good topics. And if nothing else, by the end of today, you're going to have some really good questions for your insurance agent. I know a very good friend of mine, Blair. He's actually a broker, insurance broker in my area. I talk to him and I get all this good information, and it's, you know, they're a source of information. And I know A friend of mine, Jim, Divers Alert Networks in training, but regardless, I talk to him and others, and we have some really good conversations. And those are the people you want to talk to. They can help you. But again, if you don't have the right questions, it makes it difficult for them to give you the right advice. Then there's students. How do we get insurance for students? Can we insure a student? And the answer is yes. Absolutely. Various places. I know Dan has one particular program, Divers Alert Network, where all you got to do is register your student. And they're during the course, while they're in your supervision, before they're fully certified, they get a component of insurance. Again, talk to Dan. Other companies have the same programs. It's very important to utilize this. And I think a lot of people don't. It's like, well, how can you benefit from it? Well, we'll talk more about that in a minute. So you see that very easily, if you just start breaking down the activities you do in your business. I teach. My students use my gear and my air fills. I rent gear. This is me. I rent gear. I do air fills. I use public pools for the city that I'm in. We use some lakefront parks. We use some personal property. I don't have a boat. I rent boats. We don't charge for rides if people are buddying up to go together. We encourage it, but that's on them. Other than that, we meet at the dive site. When we do international travel, I recommend to people to get, in my area, Divers Alert Network insurance to travel with. Spectacular, works awesome. And we always make a point of making sure our students are aware of any insurance that they could get on their own, and we assist them with that. So that's my particular area when we're looking at areas of insurance within this particular region that I live in. So who can really benefit from this? Like, quite often we think, oh, the only ones that benefit are the insurance company. And well, absolutely, they're getting paid. So they need to make a profit. If they don't, there's probably a big problem there. They won't be there next year. So we do want them to make money. But at the same token, we want to make money. And making money is really not a bad thing. It's a very good thing when you're in business, as independent instructors, as professional educators, as stores, colleges, universities, and aquariums. There's all kinds of NAUI facilities that absolutely have to look at profitability. Well, profitability can be measured in many ways. A lawsuit that you lose $1 million on, which is not much nowadays for that to happen, very much could affect your profitability or even survivability. So we all can benefit by having insurance. So ways an instructor can, you may be like me, and I'm not a spring chicken. I'm certainly not old either, but somewhere in the middle at 58 next few weeks from now. Yeah, I know I only look 21, right? But at 58, you don't want to be in a situation where you have a major lawsuit and sets you back. You want to protect your assets. By the time you get this age, you've got something, and you want to make sure you hold on to it. You're, as an instructor, you may be a whole facility. You may be part of a store with assets. We have a compressor, we have a generator, we have all kinds of scuba gear for sale as well as rental gear. You may have some of those things, and maybe you don't. You may have a boat. So whatever your assets are, you want to protect. Because if you lose the asset, even if there's a loan on it, you may be in a big world of hurt because you still may owe money, and you may also have no assets. So this is a business thing. As an instructor or as a facility of any kind, we have to look at the profitability of the cost of the insurance versus the benefit of the insurance. What can happen if I don't have it? What can happen if I do? As NAUI instructors, we are required to have insurance. If you're in a country that there's an exception, deal with your own service center. That would be up to you. I'm speaking worldwide, and we tend to have variations through the world just because of the dynamics of the many, many wonderful countries that we work through. So as we're looking at how we can benefit us, we got to look at how it benefits our student. Well, first of all, the student being insured on their own would benefit us. There's only so much money in your coverage. And if that coverage is, say, I'm going to make this up, just making it up. Say it's $1 million and you have coverage for $1 million. That's $1 million per this event. Perhaps, depending, and I said perhaps, depending on how you structure your insurance, The student insurance would be an additional amount to it, or a pre-existing amount to it, or a post amount. What do I mean by that? I mean, there's more money in the pot. Simple as that. Your instructor may have insurance as well as the facility. You may have a duplicate amount or an additional amount of insurance there as well. So you can benefit yourself by identifying with your agents the instructor, the student needs, the business needs, again, as well as local partners. In my particular area, like I said, when I rent the pool, I have to give a certificate annually to say, yes, I have insurance, and yes, I've included you. Here's your certificate. It gives you coverage. Say that we're working in your facility. Sometimes by doing this, we can save money. And I know sometimes people are looking at it, that it costs us a lot of money for insurance. That's true. But if we're communicating openly with our partners and our broker or agent, depending on where your area, my area, I would be a broker I deal with. And if I communicate with them effectively, quite often I find they actually do a very good job of trying to save me money, because they'll look and say, okay, they have this, you don't, but if they give you this letter, then you get this. And there's magic and potions and all kinds of things they can do for that. Again, I'm not an insurance agent. I can't use the proper words. And even then, the proper words would vary per region. So by opening up and having a clear dialogue on insurance with all the partners involved in it, you can get a benefit for you, for your business, for your students, for your facility, for your individual professionalism, as well as your students. So you can really gain by having that. What considerations do we have? Well, start by your activities. When we're looking at this, make a list, literally stop and look. I mean, if you're like me, we have a very wonderful website and everything is booked through our website. Because people book it through the website, they also do a digital waiver at that point. Again, depends on your area, whether that is valid or not. In my area, that works just wonderful. And I've got a really good computer programmer, Robert, who looks after all these things. And it goes to the website, they book, all the activities are there, the waiver signed, you can't book without going click on that. And because of that, I can make a list of activities in seconds. Literally, it's a search, print, go, done. And that list of activities could really help my broker as to what I'm doing out there, especially what you're billing for, because with a billable activity, you want to make sure you include that. So those are the considerations. What are you doing? The facilities. For instance, I rent boats where we go. If I had my own boat, I would have to pay extra for my insurance for the boat coverage. But because of the geographic area I'm in, it's a lot of fuel, a lot of pulling, a lot of launching fees and docking fees everywhere we go, because I'm in a unique area. Yes, I live on a very big lake, but we're in the midst of all the Great Lakes. And I'm pretty sure worldwide, most people know what the Great Lakes are in North America. And where I live in Ontario, the Great Lakes literally do like a V around me and then up through the St. Lawrence Seaway. So I've kind of almost a check mark of water around me that's in 3 hours to 5 hours we can go to. And that's a lot of pulling of boats. So economically, it's cheaper for me to rent a boat. When I'm renting a boat, I make sure that they are a licensed commercial, in my area, the right words, licensed commercial vessel with commercial insurance. They have Dan O2 kits in my area. I like to promote that one. Again, the O2 kit and first aid kit makes sure they're all on board, and a licensed captain. By doing that, it saves me actually more money than having a boat. I know that because we used to have the boat when it didn't make sense. Okay, I just found it was a lot more work for me. To say I was doing it for free would be a bonus. It was actually I was doing work, spending more. So now I just literally drive, step on the boat with my gear like everybody else, and run the operation. So certainly it was an economic benefit by identifying all this and by using other facilities. Same as pools. Whether you have your own pool or not, you may find an economic benefit of having your own versus renting it or having some kind of strategic partnership. Strategic partnerships will be one of our upcoming NAUI talks in the future, because that's been a real benefit to me in my area. I always look at the the charter boats separately, even though it's kind of combined in facilities we use. Like, I know I covered it. I just want to say charter boats matter. Think about the boats you're using. Your own personal boat out there is not a charter boat. It is not an insured boat. Now, in your area, maybe that's different. And if it is, talk to the local professionals. Always think, what is the best economic benefit to me, whether it be owning, paying all the associated costs as well as the insurance, or versus just renting it out. And in my area, like I've described to you, there's a few things like pools and boats that strategically just about worked out to be a better financial plan for us. So those are some of the considerations you need to make for your area to see how that would affect you. So somebody was asked about teaching in a private pool and can you cover yourself? Absolutely. For many years, I had a house with a pool and I just listed my address and my pool in my insurance. Again, that may vary based on where you live. For me in Barrie, Ontario, Canada, what I just have to do with my insurance agent is declare that this address, I lived in town and I had a pool. Now I live on the lake and I have the lake. Both times I list my address. I tell what I'm doing to my agent and they give me a certificate that says, yes, you're covered to run dives from your place on the lake. And previously it was, yes, you're covered to teach in that pool at that location. So there's no problem. It could be your personal pool. It could be a neighbor's pool. It could be a friend who lives a couple blocks away. Again, that's between you and your agent or broker, depending on what your area calls them. And no problem. I think having a personal pool available to you, yours or a friend's or a family member, is a spectacular way, because then you're not arguing with yourself, right? Anyway, other than that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody and thank you very much for attending. And I really appreciate everything and the opportunity to assist you with the growth of your business. Bye now.